So there's a word going around many knowledge communities, science communities in the world called quantum physics. And this thing has leaked into the spiritual communities and people bounce the word around, but don't really provide an indigenous perspective or any bit of indigenous knowledge on the subject at hand. That subject is quantum physics, right? In quantum physics, the biggest ideas that you hear about in quantum physics are these particles being able to exist in multiple states at one time, and linked particles being able to influence other particles that they are linked with instantly across any amount of distance. This is the whole entire idea of incarnations and your soul being a particle, being able to emanate more particles that it is linked with, that it can influence from its non-locality, right? And in my book, I speak on the word quantum physics and how the word itself you can trace to three different times in history, three different locations in three different cultures, three different languages, right? Now, as a knowledge compiler, Veda Vyasa, my job is to compile information across timelines, across cultures, across languages to bring one whole concept back together. And this is data encryption 101. We have to understand sacred knowledge being left around the planet. It's in different cultures, not for cultures to compete against each other and say, we did it first or we did it bigger here. No, there were deposits here, deposits there, deposits over here, so that at a future time, somebody can come and put all of it back together as one whole algorithm, as one whole system, as one whole understanding of information as a whole. Data, algorithms, these spiritual systems and cultures. Quantum physics is speaking on algorithms and how algorithms work, computer systems, computer and information systems, data and information systems. So, all the woo-woo, spiritual, magic this and magic that, that's all a distraction to keep you from the fact that quantum physics, biology, chemistry, and all of these things are really trying to show you how the algorithm of reality works. And these spiritual cultures around the world that have deities are the different chemistries or chemical elements that have a play in this reality. What you see on the periodic table of elements is just a little smidget of all of the elements at play. Every deity in a spiritual culture around the world is a chemical element at play in this makeup, in this matrix of reality on Earth. So, as I read from my new book, Mook University's Introduction to Astrology, right, we'll turn to page 49, where I lead into me beginning to speak on the word quantum physics, right? Particularly quantum, quantes taum or quantum, right? So we start with the various formulas coding forces of nature into existence operate as plugins, right? To shape reality. When you intentionally perform rituals, routines, offerings, and upload shrines into your environment, for these powers, you are simultaneously invoking, like a plugin, but in you, right? And in your computer, your body is a computing system, right? Invoking or activating a personal portion of your infinite soul, right? A personal, per soul al, personal. Per also means house. Sun, your soul. Al for algorithms. So your personality is your house of soul algorithms. What is algorithms? A set of functions to perform a task, right? So your arsenal of algorithms, you know, is written in your personality. So the different ways that you can be are the different ways you can function to perform your necessary task on the earth. Today they call it split personality, bipolar disorder, all kinds of stuff like that. That is because they, right, will play the theism game, right? They, the forces that of unrighteousness, would like to see people in confusion about who and what they are so that they can go along with the slave program agenda to, continue to feed this intelligence that doesn't have a care for the natural world and the natural way of things here on the earth, right? To be brought online in your genetic expression, flipping the light switches on, turning up the dials, right? Got a lot of pictures in this book for you to go along with and things that make a little bit more sense, This is also designed for elementary students, need be, right? I would love for this to be seen by elementary students because it's written at that level as well, you know. Your soul is not just a central point of light. It is an infinite void or black hole that has no beginning. Hence why our awareness is described as a non-locality. But what is a non-locality? A non-locality is a quantum or quantum concept, right? Where these particles can exist but not have a mappable location. They just have a presence of force and an impression into existence to be recognized. But it's an unmappable thing, right? That's your soul, that's you, unmappable, untouchable, right? Undestroyable, undestructible, uninfluenceable, right? The modern word quantum originates out of our grandparent languages of Sanskrit and Egyptian. Now we also have Spanish as well mixed in here, but Spanish is a daughter language of, once again, as I said, our grandparent languages of Sanskrit and Egyptus or Egyptian, right? Combining several unrelated words, ku antum, to to form ku ant or ku ant or ku ant right? Which means the world before, where causations, creations arise from, right? I don't know if y'all can see that. Now, in here as well, we have a picture from the book or the dictionary, Ancient Egyptian Hieroglyphic Dictionary by E.A. Wallace Budge. I believe this is from Volume 1. There's a Volume 1 and a Volume 2, which are downloadable in PDF form for you to go through and download and print yourself, right? But we have the word ku, right? Which means high or steps, right? So saying that Kuantes Ta'om or the quantum world is the world before where causations, creations arise from or arise, right? And ku, the beginning of the word meaning high or steps, like a step to reality, right? Ku equals high, risen, or arising, a step to reality from wave, which is contemplative thought, to actual solidified event or particle, right? Risen to manifestation from information to formation, from just data zeros and ones or quantum symbols, right? Hieroglyphs, which are quantum symbols, from a quantum keyboard, as I said already, you know, to make you. Antum is antes from Spanish, which equals before, or Latin, right? Latin, antes means before, right? Blended with atum, which means creation, formation. So antes, which means before, blended with atum, which means creation, formation, means before creation, formation, right? Atum switched around equals ta om. So if you take atum and take the T and the A, switch them around, you have ta and or om, right? Ta means land or world in Egyptian. And in Vedic scriptures, om or is defined as the beginning sound in which all creations and sounds arise from. Yet om or is also the sound of contemplation. Remember, I said the quantum world is the world where which means the world where causations or creations arise from wave, contemplative thought, into particle, actual experience, right? When someone is pondering on something or trying to generate an answer to something, and they say, right? They say, what did you do last week? What's for homework tomorrow? You know what I mean, right? That's that whole very popular phrase in all of the Vedic systems of knowledge. It's also just the simple it's contemplation, right? That's the quantum world, the world of contemplative thought, right? The world where our contemplative thoughts arise from wave, right? Is also the sound of contemplation, like when someone is pondering on something or trying to generate an answer to something and they say and the answer rises to the individual's awareness. This is the concept of ta or ta ku antes ta ku antum, quantum, right? The word it is the world where our contemplations are summoned from into formation. This is where the term and concept of quantum or quantum can be traced back to. The word itself is a mathematical or mayat equation spelling out what the human language would pronounce as quantum or quantum. The quantum field is a landscape generated through mathematical equations. These mathematical equations must be in harmony with one another for balance of the generated landscape to remain unchanged. Each shift is a shift in code that either harmfully alters the data within the matrix or continues to operate within alignment of its mother data structure, which means the quantum field has rules as well on what can exist there. And it's not even really a place, it's more so a state of mind, literally, like sleep. When you're in that portion of sleep where you're not aware of anything and you just wake up, and we'll call it the in-between. The quantum world is that in-between state. It's not necessarily a place. That is why your soul, which is a quantum concept, is a non-locality, an unmappable particle. You feel what I'm saying? So here's also a photo of the Om symbol within the Vedic systems of knowledge, right? So once again, being able to trace a word. Here's also a picture of Atum, right? And this book was completely designed for you to also be able to take a psychedelic dose in partnership with the book, meaning you take your psychedelic dose and you have books of the page open, because I include a good amount of pictures that are psychedelic friendly, right? That can, transfer information to you during your trip. You feel what I'm saying? So this book was designed to be taken with psychedelics if you are of that, caliber, where you're ready for things like that. You take 20 grams, 25 grams, 15 grams, 11 grams, 5 grams, 2 grams, 1 gram, and you just have certain pages of the book open to, either read from or simply just let them sit in your environment in during your trip. This book is a shrine within itself, it's a storehouse, right? So, once again, being able to trace this thing to 3 different languages, 3 different cultures, 3 different parts of the planet: Egyptus, India, which was also named Veda Bhumi, and Spain, or amongst the Spanish culture, right? Or the Latin culture and the Latin language, right? So, it just goes to show you that, these concepts are not new. So when they try to come to you with making it seem as though quantum physics is so difficult to understand and, oh, you need such a deep educational background, the deep educational background is having a freaking soul, right? A soul with incarnations, where you have your own avatars and emanations, or particles that are linked together across what they call time, distance, and space. Your incarnations, as I said in the video before, as they speak of an avatar being able to exist simultaneously with you, right, is the concept of particles being able to exist in multiple states at one time. It's quantum physics 101. So when people are out here trying to make these sciences seem like black folk can't understand it, folks without college degrees can't understand it, indigenous people can't understand it, it comes out of indigenous knowledge or endogenous knowledge, right? And the only people that can truly break down quantum physics to its highest degree are those with a quantum reality. So there's an individual named Brother Panic who always used to speak on certain beings on this planet not necessarily having a quantum reality. The concept behind that goes back to what I said about the quantum, or Kuantes Ta'om, mathematical equation is what generates the quantum landscape. That quantum landscape has rules to it, which is why an individual like Brother Panic would say certain beings here do not have a quantum reality. And those are the beings that are trying to flip this thing into some so hard to understand science that is based off of the beings whose land they are trampling over. Quantum knowledge is everywhere. Quantum knowledge is written within the beings that are being enslaved on this planet, because those are the quantum people. Those are the quantum beings. Those with the quantum particle. The particle that comes before this world, not created in this world or in a world of material formation. Those who come from that world of information and not simply formation, right? Those who have a quantum reality, a true spiritual reality, right? So, that's that. We'll end it with that. Check the book out, dig into it. It's there, 16 bucks, $16. If it was up to me, I would make it for free. Most of the money goes to this thing getting printed. I think I get about 78 cents off of each book. I would get this out for free if it was up to me. So grab it, because it's a lot of things that you may want to ask me that I probably most likely answered in here. Nice and thick, you know. A lot of work was put into it, you know, and this is just the start. So, that being said, y'all, peace. Thank you for listening.